Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville Zoning Hearing Board meeting for Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Sharon, roll call, please.
Mr. Rosapel?
Here.
Mr. Griziak?
Here.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Here.
Mr. Gatos?
Here.
Ms. Wilkins?
Here.
Mr. Dice?
Here.
Mr. Weldon?
Here.
Under approval of minutes, if there are no additions or corrections, I will entertain a motion from last minutes, for last month's meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, minutes are approved. We move on to old business. Paul, if you would, please.
First item is 21-24-A, David and Rachel Fix. Applicant requests a variance from Table 201B, permitted uses, conditional uses, yard and area requirements of the Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443, as amended to operate a bed and breakfast. The business is currently being operated in violation of ordinance 1443. The property is located at 137 Mayberry Drive in the R2 one-family residential zoning district. This item was tabled at the October 6th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant?
Before we begin with the applicant, I want to just ask Paul a couple questions. Paul, this is an application for relief under the zoning ordinance, and it's my understanding that this property is in the R2 district,
Correct.
and bed and breakfasts are not included in the R2 district,
Correct. They are a special exception in the R4 and R5.
in the R4 and R5. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present? You sign in, please.
I have, thank you very much. Good evening, members of the board.
Could you state your name for the secretary?
Would you like me to keep this mask?
take it off.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. Yes, good evening, members of the board. My name is Ryan Wotus. That's W-O-T-U-S. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Goldberg, Kamen, and Garvin here on behalf of the appellants, David and Rachel Fix. They are the owners of the single-family residential home located at 137 Mayberry Drive. Before we get into sort of the merits of what's before the board this evening, to Mr. Dice's point, I think there's some importance in walking through the procedural history in terms of how we got here, sort of what happened in the interim, and then ultimately what's actually before the board this evening.
Just before we start that, I just want to, when I read your application, it's unclear what it is that you're asking for. Are you asking for a use variance?
I am not. We've never asked for a use
What are
variance.
you asking for?
We have two basic arguments that we've laid out in our application. One is the operation of the property, as will be discussed this evening, is in compliance with the zoning ordinance, specifically the R2 uses, and that relates to obviously the definitions of how the property is being operated. Alternatively, to the extent that the board believes the property is not being operated in compliance with the zoning ordinance, the ordinance itself is unconstitutional, as it's exclusionary because it does not permit the short-term rental of single-family homes anywhere within the municipality. And as a result, we're seeking site-specific relief. Okay. So just to go back a little bit on the procedural aspect of this, on July 29th of 2021, Monroeville had issued a violation notice to the property owners with respect to the use and operation of that single-family home. I don't know what all the board has. I do have a copy of that violation notice. Would you prefer that I mark that as Exhibit A, or how would the board like to proceed?
Go ahead, yes.
Does the board have copies of that violation notice? If not, I have additional copies I can hand out.
Why don't you just make sure that our court reporter has it?
Okay, good point.
And you have it marked?
I'm sorry, I do not.
Okay.
Would you like me to use
This is A.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll go ahead and mark as Exhibit A. This is the violation notice that was received by my client from the Municipality of Monroeville, again dated July 29th of 2021. This was I think it's important to note this was directed to the single-family home at 137 Mayberry Drive, where it was received by my client. Two of the items or the deficiencies that are alleged to be that the property is operating in violation of the ordinance are set forth in the letter itself. The first identifies it as Section 203, permitted uses, which it discusses and states the permitted use for each district is shown in Table 201 of the ordinance, and it provides that the permitted and conditional uses are shown on that Table 201. And it continues that in the R2 one-family residential, it does not permit the use of a single-family residential structure for, quote, multifamily use or for a transient living use. So that's the use that's identified in this violation notice in terms of the operation of the property. It also continues on and provides that it appears that you have established a transient living use within the R2 one-family residential district. Again, I think it's important from a procedural aspect what we received and what was alleged at that time. It also provides for Section 503, which is zoning occupancy permits. Again, it identifies there that we are operating, or my client is operating, a transient living use without a zoning occupancy permit. It was from the receipt of that violation notice that we then went ahead and filed a appeal that's obviously pending before this zoning hearing board, and that's what's before you this evening. I'm going to mark as Exhibit B the application that we had filed then with the municipality.
Thank you.
Does the board have a copy of that as well? Assuming that's in the packet. Okay,
Is that this?
It is.
that's it,
Yeah,
correct.
everybody has that.
Okay, great. So again, just want to identify on this just briefly. Obviously, the exhibit will speak for itself. This is an appeal of the decision of the zoning officer dated July 29th, 2021. It provides this is regarding the allegation of a violation of the two ordinance provisions that we just walked through that were in the violation notice. It then continues and it says, explain the details regarding the above. Again, the two items of relief that I spoke to at the beginning of the hearing is first that the use of the subject property is not in violation of the code with respect to specifically the provisions that are cited by the zoning officer, or alternatively, if the enforcement and the interpretation of the code were held up by this board, it would actually preclude the use of any single-family residential home in the entirety of Monroeville for the purposes of a temporary rental. We also have identified in there that we're requesting site-specific relief based upon the exclusionary zoning here, which would then entitle the applicant here, or the appellant here, to continue to utilize it for that purpose. Notwithstanding, and I think this is, to Mr. Dice's point, this has created a little bit of confusion in terms of then what occurred next is we received an agenda and saw the posted notices that were placed for the property that identified that we were requesting a variance to operate a bed and breakfast. As we just walked through, neither the letter nor the application itself in any way, shape, or form speaks to bed and breakfast. We're not requesting the opportunity to operate a bed and breakfast. We've never operated a bed and breakfast at this site. And again, we're not seeking to go ahead and ask for a use variance to operate a bed and breakfast on this site. And I'll walk through when we get to the definition of why this use doesn't qualify as a bed and breakfast. Just briefly, a little bit on the factual background. My clients purchased this property in, June of 2013. The property is owned in the individual's names, meaning Dave and Rachel Fix, husband and wife. The home was bought at that time as a personal residence. It remains as their principal residence. It was not bought as an investment property in 2013. Again, this is their primary residence where they reside. It's again utilized the majority of the year as their own residence. They're currently residents of Monroeville. They vote in this municipality, and they utilize that again as their home address. The use of the property for what we're calling here short-term rentals began in 2016, and it is operated in that same manner up until the date that we received the violation notice. So this has been ongoing for approximately 5 years at this point. So the first request for relief that we identified was that the property itself, again, is not being utilized in violation of Section 203 of the Monroeville zoning ordinance. That provision was codified as Section 359-10. When looking to Section 359-10, it refers you to Schedule A. There's an editorial note that identifies Schedule A as now Table 201. So that's how we get to what's the list of permitted uses, not just in the R2, but in every zoning district in the municipality, which I believe you have 14, if I'm remembering that correctly. One thing that's important here is that the zoning ordinance doesn't identify, with respect to each separate zoning district, the purpose for the creation of that district. And I think that's important here, because a lot of times you will see that legislative intent, and they'll say, this is why the purpose of the R1 district, this is the purpose of the R2, this is the purpose of the R3, and so on. There is no purpose identified within the Monroeville zoning ordinance. So it doesn't give you any guidance in terms of what the legislative intent was there, which I think is important. Again, we've identified the owner utilized the property majority of the year for their own use, and otherwise it is made available for temporary short-term rentals. Some of the definitions that are important in terms of looking at this aspect of what does it mean to be a one-family residential home within the municipality. First item, or the first defined item that's located in the ordinance is cited at Section 359-49, which contains all the definitions within the zoning ordinance. First is dwelling unit. So the dwelling unit here is defined as one or more living or sleeping rooms with cooking or sanitary facilities for one person or one family. So this house would qualify as a dwelling unit. It has more than one sleeping room, it has an opportunity to cook within the home, and it has its own sanitary facilities. It is designed as a single-family home, it operates as a single-family home, and it's basically operated as one integral unit. The ordinance then defines, looking to family, it defines family as, quote, either an individual or two or more persons related by blood or marriage or adoption, or a group of not more than 5 persons so unrelated or so related. So let's break that down a little bit. Sort of 2 buckets in terms of what constitutes a family within the municipality. The first is an individual or 2 or more persons related by blood or marriage or adoption. So we have the sort of what we'll call the related people. And then it also provides for a group of not more than 5 persons not so related. So it could be myself and 4 of my friends if we operated within and lived within a single family home and utilized it as basically a single housekeeping unit, we would be a family for the purpose of what constitutes a family under your ordinance. The next important item is what the definition is of a one-family house. So the ordinance again defines this now as a detached building having accommodations for and occupied by not more than one family. Again, that's how this house is operated. It's a detached home, and it has accommodations to operate as a single-family home. And the subject property, even if there are short-term rentals, it still operates that way in conformity with the definition of family, and it operates as a single integral, single housekeeping unit during the periods that it is rented for short periods. The users of the subject property, frankly, they function as a home. They live and cook together. They use the kitchen that's provided on site. The activities and areas of the house are shared by everyone, rather than where you see, for instance, in a bed and breakfast where you have separate rooms are sort of designated to individual tenants or users for that period of time. All occupants in this instance have the access to the entire home. And again, when they cook their meals are eaten together by the users, again, operating more as a family would. And in some instances, many of these families occupy the property for a month or more, and we'll have an example, at least we'll discuss with one of the owners here shortly. So there are opportunities where there are people there for what I would consider to be a longer period of time. And again, then the remainder of the year, it's occupied by the individual owners that own the real estate. And I'm sure the board's heard this in other cases that have been before them, but the courts have time and time held again that zoning ordinances are to be liberally construed to allow the broadest possible use of land. And in terms of the definitions that are provided here, I don't believe this to be a liberal interpretation. I believe this to fall completely within the bounds of what the definitions provide, which is critical in analyzing, this item. And again, there's no express prohibition in the ordinance saying that that would preclude the rental of homes within the residentially zoned district. And again, the use of this subject property meets the definitions of the ordinance, as the house is operated as a single dwelling unit for occupancy by a family, as those terms are defined within your ordinance. So with that, I'd like to quickly just call David Fix up to provide a little bit more insight in terms of the use and operation of this home. And we'll keep it brief because I don't know how long your agenda is, but I know you got some people
You
here.
signed in, sir?
Yes, I am.
Would you state your name for the secretary?
My name is David Fix, spelling on the last name, F-I-X.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Let me swear you in too. Would you raise your right hand?
Yes.
You swear the testimony you're about to give this board this evening shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Dave, before we get a little bit further into it, you've been present the whole time during this hearing, is that right?
Yes.
And you've heard how I've described this property being used and operated, is that right?
Yes.
And would you say that that's a fair representation of the use and operation since 2016?
We do believe so, yes.
If you could just briefly describe for the board sort of how what this home means to you.
So this is our home. This is my wife's home. We live in Monroeville we lay our head here. I mean, we've always considered our home. We love this town. I participate in the town. We participate in charity events over at Dad's every December for a Stuff a Truck event. And I've even been asked by community to participate in running for the school board at one point, and I've turned it down just because I don't have enough time for it. So I appreciate what you folks do. But we call Monroeville and that property our house, our home.
So you reside there the majority of the year, is that
Yes.
right? And from time to time, there is an opportunity that you do rent this out for short-term rentals. is that
Yes.
correct? And can you describe for the board, at least give them an idea of what is some of the reasons that families choose to come to Monroeville and come to your home to stay on a temporary basis?
So this is something we've learned over time. I think everybody would ask, why would people visit Monroeville besides the convention center? And we have found from doing this, we're helping a lot of different families, funerals, people coming in for weddings, people coming to visit. They haven't been here for 2 years, 3 years. There was a pandemic just occurred, if anybody heard about it. A hotel, for a lot of them, didn't feel like a safe place to stay. They might have been traveling or coming here to see grandma after all these years. And seeing grandma in a hotel wasn't an option for them. Seeing family in a that type of situation wasn't. Even spending some holidays, this Thanksgiving, we're having my family there. But we really found found a solution for a lot of families traveling, maybe with kids, 4 or 5 kids. It's hard to pack 4 or 5 kids into a hotel room or 2 hotel rooms where this becomes their home for a weekend. We had a lady visiting us. She came 5 weekends in a row. She was trying to adopt a child here in Pittsburgh, and she brought her children with her to meet this child before she actually was able to adopt it. And she calls this her Pittsburgh home. She lived in Houston. And we still stay in touch with her, and it provided her and her family a home away from home and a solution that a hotel room wouldn't have really helped them out in.
So Dave, can you, before you actually would rent or agree to rent your home to these people, do you have an opportunity to vet them, to understand who they are, to make sure that they are people that you want in your home, and they really, in most instances, meet that family, definition? Nobody's
allowed to just book our home. It's not one of those things where they can just go ahead and say, we're coming. We always ask, why are you coming? What's your purpose for being here? And, how long do you plan on staying, obviously? So because we consider this home, we don't want those horror stories you do maybe hear about on the news. We want to know why they're coming, and that's important to us because if I'm going to share my home with another family, I should know why. That's extremely important. So yes, it's not just free willy-nilly.
And I don't know if you have the numbers in front of you, but I had asked you in terms of preparation just to give us the board an idea in terms of the scale of how often this is actually rented, because I think that in some instances people have a tendency to think that's all that's used for, or it's 90% of it's being used that way. So did you go ahead and compile the nights that were rented from 2016 up until basically 2021, October of 2021?
In 2016, we had 35 nights rented. In 2017, we had 25 nights rented. In 2018, we had 111 nights rented. In 2019, 103 nights rented. And in 2020, we had 282 nights rented, but there was a very
Explain.
specific circumstance. A family reached out to us out of Murraysville. While they were away on vacation for the Christmas holiday, they had a pipe burst. And they were living, the insurance company put them up at a hotel. They were a family, I think, of 6. And they said, we can't live there. So they reached out to us about renting the place. We said, all right, this seems like they're in a real situation. We allowed them to rent. Well, slowly, as 2020 started, the pandemic hit. And they knew right away that their construction was halted and they were going to be stopped. They ended up staying in our home till May. Me and Rachel actually didn't have a home. We ended up renting at the Eagle Ridge Apartments because we consider Monroeville our home. Because we felt like the situation that these people were in, having 6 of them needing to live in a house, was far greater than me and her and our dog. And so they stayed there the whole time and thanked us profusely, because if they would have had to have spent 6 months living in a hotel as 6 people during that, it would have been an absolute nightmare for them. So I feel like we really lent them a hand, and we still stay in touch with them as well.
And then did you also have the number of days in 2021?
2021, up to the last hearing, I had it counted at 105.
So that's more in line with the 2020, prior to the 2020 year.
Yeah.
And in some instances, all of those, the greatest percentage that otherwise would be in there taking out the 2020 was 30% of the year, and on the low end was 7% of the year.
Correct.
So other than that, the home was not rented and was resided in by Dave and Rachel. So I think that's important just for the board to understand sort of the scope of what we're actually talking about here. So I think that's it, unless you have anything else.
I mean, we just found that during the pandemic especially, we provided a solution for a lot of people where, again, sometimes that traditional sense of that Marriott isn't the answer. And a lot of people are able to reconnect with family in the area. I hate to keep telling these stories. Another family, one of our first renters, they were having a baby shower. It was their first kid. They were living in Australia. Their aunt lived one street over from us. They wanted to celebrate it, so they came in and stayed at the house for 2 weeks. And then a year later, contacted us. They had their baby and was able to bring their child to America to meet the family after it popped out. And these stories we have found doing it is the situations that we're running into, which we truly feel like we're providing a home, even though it is our home, and a solution. So we feel good about it. We feel positive, and we've had a lot of great, really can't say we've had any bad situations.
Thank you. So I think
Hold on a second.
Got it.
Are you through with your direct?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. A couple of questions.
Yes.
You've referred to this as a short-term rental. Is that correct?
Yes.
How do you advertise it?
The only place that we advertise on is with Airbnb.
And what's B&B?
That's a website, Airbnb.
Okay, what does the B&B stand for?
I can't interpret what their website stands for.
It's not bed and breakfast.
You can look up Air Bed and Breakfast, but I think they go by Airbnb when they refer to their company.
So you advertise on that website.
Can I explain why we only choose that platform?
Hold on a second, just let me get through this, and
Sure.
you can start to explain anywhere you want. Now, you said it's a short-term rental. You receive income from this.
Correct.
You report it on your tax return.
Correct.
And am I right that you report it as a business?
We recently filed as a limited liability corporation, me and my wife as partners.
Okay.
But the home is still owned by us.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand. But you're reporting the income as a business
Correct.
venture, right?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Up till about a year or two ago, yes. when we
Have you
filed the
seen the
LLC.
definition in the zoning ordinance of what a bed and breakfast is? Have you seen
Me
it?
personally, no, I haven't.
Okay. That's all I have. Any board members have any questions?
Well, just on the tax situation.
Yes.
You also pay Monroeville taxes based upon you running the business.
Correct.
Okay.
And we pay Allegheny, they call it, Allegheny makes, Airbnb collects hotel tax. if I may elaborate on the reason why we choose that platform, is they provide $1 million coverage. That's not only for us in our home, that's if something were to happen to anywhere in the area. Hence, like I said, we don't rent willy-nilly. We want to make sure while we're doing this, everyone is
We understand.
covered.
We understand that.
There's a question to the attorney. You were talking about the family unit and then up to a number unrelated.
Correct. It's, the ordinance provides for up to 5 unrelated individuals.
Well, we have situations where we've had in excess of that other group.
No, we have.
Number-wise.
No. So I've actually spoken with them in terms of who utilizes this. So as he has testified, it's almost always a family. So it's always, blood, marriage, or adoption, which constitutes, under your ordinance, that could be any number of people, could constitute a family, so long as they're related in one aspect or another of that. Then you sort of have that second bucket. So then you'd have up to 5 unrelated people could still constitute a family under your ordinance.
And what's the capacity of the dwelling?
So we have the property listed as 8 to 10 members. But again, our goal here is to work with you folks. If there's something we need to do, we could specifically limit using our platform to 5 members. It's something that, in an effort to work with Monroeville instead of just reject Monroeville, we're open to further consideration moving forward.
When you said you stayed at Eagles Nest or Eagles Ridge,
Yeah.
that one family, where do you reside all the other times? Do you own other properties
Yes,
in
Yes.
Monroeville or out of the state?
outside of Monroeville. Our second, we eventually purchased a tiny home in the mountains. So whenever we were renting, we would live in the tiny homes in Donegal just to have a place to stay. Tiny home loosely could be defined as trailer. But it was in an effort for us to start a business. I mean, the first time we started doing this, right by Eagles, we were living at the extended stay. Again, a room is more than comfortable for me and my wife. We're, providing that solution for another family. We didn't mind being uncomfortable for a week or, a couple days.
Okay, I'm a little puzzled on one thing. Oh, go ahead, Larry.
I'm sorry. So when you have people stay in your house, you're never at the house when they're there?
No.
Okay.
Okay, I'm a little puzzled on something that was said earlier, that since the 2016 occupancy, there's never been a short-term there's never been a bed and breakfast there.
I've never served anyone breakfast in my life, except my wife occasionally.
Okay, then why is it there's a whole bunch of people on Facebook, on A and B, they were bed and breakfast, talking about the wonderful times they had staying at your residence since 2016 for football games, for baseball games, all kind of stuff. They're on the same website that you advertise on.
I'd be happy to review, anything you're asking me to speak on
I'm telling
specifically.
you what I've read. You can go on there and read it too.
A family can attend a football game, right? And so if they're traveling into town, for example, I do recall specifically, we had people living in Los Angeles. They were Chargers fans. They came into, a family to see a Steeler game against. I mean, we're one of the most prized teams in the country. I think that's a good reason for people to visit our city, correct? Again, I never stated it was just for funerals or, weddings, but a football game would be a
No,
good
I'm
reason
saying-
to visit Pittsburgh.
We were told you've never had short-term occupancy since 2016.
No, that's when it commenced.
That's when we started.
That's when it commenced.
The
Yes.
short-term, okay.
Correct. Okay, that's I understand the confusion now.
Okay.
So commenced in 16.
Anybody else on the board have anything?
I know you were asked a question about paying of taxes. Have you paid Monroeville business taxes specifically?
We haven't at this point, but if there's a tax to be paid, we'll pay it, and we'll pay back to that date, for sure. I was unaware of it, to be quite honest.
Okay.
There's a business privilege tax, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah,
And you also mentioned or stated about having up to 5 people.
That's what the definition of family under the Monroeville ordinance provides for. Well, it's again unlimited if it's related by blood, marriage, or adoption.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's capped at 5 unrelated individuals.
So if I'm reading a review here on Airbnb in front of me, it states about beautifully fitting 8 of us comfortably. We don't know if that's a family or if that's just people renting the house.
Without them identifying.
We wouldn't know
Correct. Okay. If we have nothing further, then just briefly like to move on to sort of what the second argument that we had included. I mean, well, I guess to finish up that piece from the discussion in terms of obviously looking at the ordinance, looking at the definitions that are provided, and the manner in which the home is being used, we believe that it fits within the definitions of what a permitted use would be within the R2 zoning district. The second issue that we raised was alternatively, to the extent that the board determines that the property is not being utilized in accordance with the R2 zoning district, that the ordinance itself is unconstitutional. It's exclusionary. What exclusionary means basically, in that instance, is there are legitimate uses that exist in the Commonwealth, in the country. A municipality has to provide somewhere for that use to operate within their municipal boundaries. So a good example is you have gas stations at every municipality. They're provided for somewhere, and they have an obligation to be provided somewhere, but you have an opportunity to regulate that by saying it can only be in a commercial district. It can only be spaced this far from other things. There's other parameters that you can provide for, but nonetheless, it has to be regulated, it has to be provided for somewhere. Otherwise, that use, the ordinance itself would be exclusionary. And in the instance of where there is exclusionary zoning, the applicant or appellant would have an opportunity to request site-specific relief, which in this case, or in any case, would permit them to utilize it as they were requesting where it is exclusionary. The ordinance here in section 359-12, which is entitled Prohibited Uses, states specifically, quote, uses not specifically listed as permitted or conditional uses shall be prohibited. So again, if the use isn't provided somewhere, it's very clear it's prohibited within the municipality. An Airbnb, a VRBO, or other personal rentals of single-family homes is a use. It's a use. It exists in this community. It exists in Western Pennsylvania. Again, it exists in the state. In some instances, it exists in the entire world. I've actually looked, and there are at least a handful of municipalities that do regulate this. They actually specifically regulate short-term rentals, one of which is the city of Philadelphia. So this isn't something that's obscure or doesn't exist elsewhere, but municipalities have gone ahead and taken a proactive approach in recognizing that this is a use that needs to be provided for in their boundaries, and they've regulated it, and there's an ability to do so. The issue here, again, is it's not regulated within this municipality. It's not permitted under the plain text of the language if it's interpreted the way that the original violation notice provided for. Wanted to talk about a couple different uses, one of which came up, and other ones that are provided for within the zoning ordinance to identify why this use is not that use. So the first is, it's not a hotel. So this is, again, looking to the definitions provided for in the ordinance. The hotel use is a structure or structures designed for occupancy primarily as a temporary abiding place for individuals who are lodged with or without meals, including auto courts, motels, motor hotels, motor lodges. But then it provides in which a structure or group of structures, one, there are more than 6 living or sleeping room units. This is in an instance where we have more than one sleeping room unit, because again, this is an integral home. It's operated as one single family dwelling. It's not similar in any way to a hotel where you get your key, you go to your singular room, and in this instance there'd be 6 or more of those to qualify as a hotel under your ordinance. In addition, it's not a bed and breakfast. So the question came up a little bit and has been alluded to about the bed and breakfast use. That's defined, first, requires, one, the dwelling be owner-occupied. So I forget who asked that question, but this is owner-occupied when they're residing there. But when it's on a short-term rental, it is not owner-occupied. They leave the area, and it is given to the family that's renting it for the short-term period. 2 is it should be operated by the family or a person residing permanently in the dwelling. Again, there's not an individual permanently residing in there or operating this as a bed and breakfast, as there's no operator. It's given to these people, they utilize it for the period, and then they leave the facility. Number 3 is that it provides that no more than three sleeping rooms may be used for such purpose. Again, this is a house. So when you think of a bed and breakfast, I don't know how many people may or may not have stayed there, but you would get there and you'd be designated a room. That's your room. You're not permitted to go to other sleeping rooms that people may be in. You can use the home generally, but your sleeping room is designated to a user. Here, that's not the instance. The user has the opportunity to utilize the entire home. And there's other items that are just generally speaking that aren't specific to this discussion, but one case that I think is beneficial to cite to is Reiner versus the City of Scranton Zoning Hearing Board, which is found at 176A.3D 396, and that's PA Commonwealth 2017 case, which just generally speaking is held that the rental of a home via Airbnb does not constitute a bed and breakfast use. And again, there's no services that are provided in this instance that you would see from a bed and breakfast. It's all utilized. They have to cook their own food. They have to clean their own messes. They have to do everything on their own. No one's doing the laundry, no one's cooking meals, no one's providing any service during the period of the short-term rental.
Excuse me, Ron, those three criteria you read off about owner-occupied, what were you reading those from?
I was reading those from, let's go back to your violation notice, because for some reason bed and breakfast hasn't been codified, but it is in your ordinance, and that is...
Okay, so you have a copy of ordinance 2522.
2522, correct.
All right.
That's where I'm reading that criteria from. And the only other use that I could conceptually see that is worth discussing here tonight is the apartment or a garden apartment. In each instance, it requires that it be a multi-family residential structure, which this one is not, and it must contain 3 or more dwelling units. Again, we don't have that in this instance, so this use would not fall under that category. Again, from our review of it, there's no location in the municipality that provides for this short-term residential use of a single-family home. Simply, there's just no short-term regulations and permission, whether it be a single family or a two-family. From our review of it, the ordinance itself is exclusionary on its face. It doesn't permit the legitimate operation of this use, and as a result, we believe that the appellant is entitled to site-specific relief to continue the operation just as they have since 2016. So, happy to address any questions or comments that the board may have. That's generally what we've raised here on appeal today.
Okay, let's make sure the record is complete here. Ordinance number 2522 is what?
It's an amendment to the zoning ordinance 1443.
And what's
which
it
is
amending?
also you kept citing 359. That's the web version of 1443. So
Okay.
They're the same thing. And ordinance 2522 amends 1443,
For what purpose?
specifically for bed and breakfast.
And is there a definition in that ordinance?
Yes, there's a
bed and
definition,
breakfast.
and the use table is also revised, and it specifically lists bed and breakfast in the R4 and R5.
In those two districts, as a special exception?
Special exception.
Yeah, and just for the purpose of the record, Section 2 of Ordinance 2522, that's in subsection 1, identifies bed and breakfast and provides for the criteria.
All right, well, let's make the ordinance number 2522 an exhibit. We'll make it a board exhibit as it's part of the record. And let's put into the record the zoning ordinance, and Sharon can get it from you, as it reflects the subject of this case. So we'll admit both of those as board exhibits, the two ordinances,
A and B.
A and B. Or, 1 and 2, he had A and B. Okay, is that it?
That's all I
I
have.
have a question. Going
Yes.
back, let's say that we approve this. Further, continuing operation of this facility, if you had 8 people that were unrelated, would they be able to rent the property?
They would not.
So if the first thing has to happen is there has to be a family unit that wants to rent that property, and then there could be up to 5 other friends?
No. So it would be one or the other. So you'd either have a family unit in there, or you could have a family and potentially one, but I don't believe under the interpretation that you could have 25 people that are related who then say we also want to bring 5.
Could you have 8 unrelated people? How many unrelated people could 5?
Just 5.
So if you have a group wanting to come in for a football game, and there happens to be 10, he's prohibited from renting?
If they're unrelated, correct, yes. That's correct. the ordinance provides for an or. So it's one or the other. So it's a group of people that are basically related or 5 unrelated people.
Ask a question of Mr. Fix, or through you, I guess. With the history going back to 2016, what's the maximum number of people ever to stay in that unit at one time?
I don't know the answer to that.
It would, I believe it's 8 or 10.
You
Have to
please
come up
stop
to
here.
the
Oh, sorry.
microphone.
Yeah, they can't get it.
Your turn.
I believe, just off my memory, it would either be 8 or 10. Yep.
So how, going forward, would you be able to determine whether or not the people were meeting the criteria for, whether they're family unit?
So whenever they send a request, it creates an opportunity to ask a question before you pre-approve to allow them to stay. So part of the request that they would say, like, hey, we want to rent next weekend, it says how many people are looking to stay there. For example, hey, we're looking to rent next weekend, and there's going to be 4 of us. Well, I could say, and I already do this, why are you coming? And I could say, who's traveling with you? And that's something that specifically in the pandemic we asked a lot of. We wanted to know who was in our home, so we could easily vet that for sure.
Yes, there are controls that could be put in place to ensure that moving forward, it would be either family or no greater than 5 unrelated.
So you meet the family when they come to your house, the day they check in?
We don't, no, we do not.
How do you know how many people were there?
Because whenever they request it, it's required by the service that they provide that information for you.
How do you know that they're going by what they told you?
I mean, obviously, people could lie, but I have to, at a certain point, when you're contracting with a person, right, you have to have a certain set of belief, and no matter what you're buying in this world.
Well, I think I would add to, just through the service that they use, the ratings go both ways, not just for the homeowners, but also the people renting. So if someone were out there doing things that what I'd consider inappropriate, they'd have a hard time renting in the future.
That's also why we use that service.
The service you're using is a B&B, what's the name of it?
It's a website called it. It's just Airbnb, like the letters B
I
and
understand.
B. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever have any parking issues with your neighbors, or how large is your driveway?
So our driveway is probably 6 cars or 5 cars down, and then there's a pad in the back that you could probably put another 2 cars.
Okay.
Not that I know of. We used to always leave a spot. We used to have the Edelsteins living next to us because they like to park on the street. But
Any complaints from neighbors about the operation of this facility?
the only time I ever had one complaint, I spoke to my neighbor about it, and I feel like we rectified the situation that he was worried about. And that was once over, like I said, 6 years. And most of our neighbors are aware that we participate in this. And, don't seem to have an issue with us. We try to stay open about it. We try to stay transparent about it. And I've exchanged my phone number personally with those neighbors, that are aware of it, saying, hey, if you ever have a problem, let us know. We're here to address it, not to ignore it. So, yeah.
To your knowledge, you've never known of a private party or a reception or anything of the like at your facility?
I mean, people will come in, for example, like the family had the baby shower, right? They came in from New Zealand. Again, I don't know how many people were there. I did not have a complaint of that. But the good part about the Airbnb platform is people review us, but we also review people. So if I were to get complaints, or if I were to get, or any renter for that matter, they would then write in that profile like, hey, this person was loud, we got complaints, they left the place a mess, other information about them. And that's truly why we love it, because right away, if it's a person who just joined this website, right, October or November of 2021, they say, hey, we're just coming. Well, I'm not going to be open, and they don't have any reviews. Well, there's going to be a lot more questions than the person that has 5 different stays, and it says, great guests, their family was wonderful, we loved having them, and that's, again, the only reason why we only rent through that platform, besides the insurance, if something were to happen to the neighborhood.
Is there any time of the year that you have a blackout or you don't rent?
Yeah, there's times where, for sure, that, I'm having my family there for Thanksgiving. If I were to say, hey, yeah, I'm going to rent that, I'd probably have a pretty upset family.
Right.
So for sure, we just did some work in the house. We blocked it out. We painted the place, Yeah, or we just generally would prefer to be there, which is the majority of the time,
Do you ever rent it to private companies, like a movie production company?
Somebody's aware of something. Yes, but that wasn't through Airbnb. We had a location agreement with them.
They were using your home?
Yes. And actually, the producer was residing there. He was staying there during the time period. He was working in the tech park back there where they've rented space as well.
Okay.
Anything, Paul, any complaints or?
Do you do any other background checks outside of the Airbnb on people who are renting your homes?
So they do not give you a photo of the person. What they'll tell you is what information they've provided to Airbnb. Airbnb requires certain forms of identification. They'll tell you that they have their identification, they have their phone number, they have these different things in place. And that's also part of our vetting system. If it's a person that just has provided Airbnb a phone number and nothing else, they wouldn't get through to rent to you. They have to provide these things to them. And there's a certain risk on their part as well, being that they're going to insure my property for $1 million if something were to happen. So they don't want to be on the hook for that as well. And that's why we love the interaction of that platform versus some of the other platforms like VRBO. That's simply a referral person to you talk to them directly. We don't use that. We don't want to use that. We want that level of security because, again, it's our home.
How many bedrooms do you have?
3.
Paul, have we had any complaints, neighbor complaints, or any other people complaining about this?
None.
Okay, is that your case? Do you have any other witnesses?
I don't have any further witnesses.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience that has anything to say about this matter?
Come
Ma'am?
forward, please. Just one at a time. Would you sign in, please, and state your name to the secretary?
Brent Whipwreck, Whipprecht.
I'll be sworn.
Can you state where he resides at, please?
He's gonna.
Okay.
Want to state where your name and where you reside?
Yeah, do I need to be sworn in first?
First, just give us your
No,
name.
just,
and
we need
where
your
you
name
reside.
first.
Yeah, I'm Brent Whipwreck. I reside at 106 Bradbury Drive.
Okay, thank you. Now, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give the board this evening shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Present your case.
Okay, so my house faces our backyard faces their property, and I have no personal animosity against David and Rachel. What the issue is for us is the noise, particularly in the summer months. The key attraction of this property is a backyard pool. And
Backyard what?
a backyard pool, in-ground swimming pool. We have a lot of experience with parties there that go well into the late hours of the night, early hours of the morning. The notion that there's just a family there is not the evidence that we've seen. We see particularly people will rent out the place and then invite others. I've seen numerous cases where there's probably 20 people in the backyard. It really is a luck of the draw. I mean, there's sometimes when they rent, it's fine, no problem. Then you can have another situation where you get a very boisterous type of event there. So unfortunately, my property bears the brunt. My neighbor, I know you said you have not heard any complaints. He was also at the meeting last time, did not get to present. He has also expressed concerns about the noise. You know, so in terms of our experience, it's like living next to a commercial business, not something that we had intended to do. So times when it's rented and let's say in the non-summer months, it's a non-issue for us. It's really, again, the summertime and the attraction of having that pool there, and because of the price of it, I think a lot of people will rent it out as well as invite others and make the best use of it and turn it really into a party center, and that's really the challenge that we have and my objection to this. So if there's a
How
way to
far-
mitigate that,
How far is your house from the subject property, subject house?
I don't have the exact dimensions. We have a short backyard that's maybe 50 feet. There's a fence, and then they have it right into their property and their pool.
So your two backyards abut each other?
Yes, kind of on the side, right? So our backyard and the side of their backyard.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you very
You
much.
have any questions?
Any questions of this witness?
Okay.
Anybody?
We saw another lady get up, I think.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Sign in, please. State your name for the secretary.
Good evening. It's Jacqueline Weibel, W-E-I-B-E-L.
How about your address?
I live at 112 Bradbury Drive.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give this board this evening shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I heard what the attorney and the homeowner said, and what I can say is that's not my experience. So I live on Bradbury, and Bradbury is a straight road for the most part, and then Mayberry basically is a loop. So it goes from one end of Bradbury, and then it intersects on the other end of Bradbury. So I live on the Bradbury Street on the Mayberry intersection. So the subject house is diagonal from me, diagonal from my side yard. And I agree with what the last speaker said, that there are many times that it's very loud late into the night, especially on the weekends in the summer, because they have a pool, obviously. What I don't agree with is the fact that there's only 5 people. You know, as the speaker said, there are often times that there are 10, 20, 30 people over there. Times that there are 2 cars, times that there are, I've seen 10, 15 cars over there. We just had a Netflix movie, as he said, filmed last Monday, which was a circus. So for 12 hours, there were wall-to-wall people, wall-to-wall cars, the road was blocked, there were box trucks there were movie vans there. There wasn't a 5-minute period that there weren't 3 or 4 cars going from, you know, down the street to that house. Additionally, the school buses couldn't get through because of the cars parked on both sides of the road. But my main concern, and the reason why I'm here, is because we have numerous kids who live on our street. I have 7 of them who live right across the street from me, right on Bradbury. I live at 112, they live at 113. They play on the street. They're anywhere from age 2 to 14 or 15. And I've seen cars that, again, I'll watch where they're going, and they go directly to this house. And these small children are playing, oftentimes unsupervised, unfortunately, but I've seen at least 6 or 8 incidents where these young children have almost been hit by vehicles going to that house. Because again, these people don't live there, they don't know the kids are on the street. Those of us who live there, we're well aware that these kids are gonna be playing right in front of my house, right on Bradbury. So that's my biggest concern, is that one of these kids are gonna get hurt. That's basically all I
Anybody have any
have.
questions?
Okay. Just dimensionally, how far away are you from the subject property, your house?
I don't know feet-wise, but by side yard, there's the road, and then the house is diagonal. So I would say my house is probably from here, maybe to the first row of vehicles out there.
Okay, so maybe 100 feet.
Yeah, so it doesn't abut. I have a road in between us.
Okay.
And again, I mean, my main concern are for these kids that are playing on the road and may end up getting hurt.
Okay. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
up.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else wish to speak? All right, prior to us making a decision, we're going to have a 5-minute recess to
Well,
discuss
just
something.
remember, you have 45 days to decide this matter. So you don't have to decide this tonight. You can defer your decision until next meeting if you choose to.
Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute recess, go into the room for discussion. This meeting will be in recess. Meeting will again come to order.
Okay, the board went into executive session really for two reasons. One, to hear the procedural steps that follow if a decision is going to be rendered. I went through that with them, and the second reason was everybody had to use the facilities. So both of those
Truth in
things were
advertising.
accomplished without incident. So it's back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Bruce. Is there anybody else in the audience that has anything to say or would like to come forward? Is there any board members that have anything to ask or anything further to say? Paul?
Nothing.
Bruce?
No.
Nobody? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny.
I'll second that.
Motion to deny, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you. Get this stuff organized here. Oh, okay, that's the other one. Paper. Paul, if you would, please, under new business.
The next two items, it's the same applicant, so I'll just read them both in, and he can make the presentation. 21-26-A, Dean Marucci. Applicant requests a variance from section 206.1 height regulation of the Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443 as amended to construct an accessory structure that will exceed the maximum permitted height of 15 feet by 8 feet for a total height of 23 feet. The property is located at 2602 Fairview Drive, tax parcel 857F078 in the R2 one-family residential zoning district. And the second application for the same applicant is 21-27-A, Dean Marucci. Applicant requests a variance from section 207.3, lot and yard requirements of Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443 as amended, to install a 40-foot by 80-foot pole building that will encroach approximately 10 feet into the required 10-foot side yard. The property is located at 2602 Fairview Drive, tax parcel 857F078 in the R2 one-family residential zoning district.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Come forward, please. Sign in. State your name for the secretary. Spell it.
Dean Marucci, D as in David, E-A-N. Last name is M-A-R-U-C-C-I.
Would you raise your right hand, please? You swear the testimony you're about to give the board this evening shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Present your case.
And do you have an address? I don't know whether the court reported that.
It's 2606 Fairview Drive.
Thank you.
So I reside at 2606 Fairview Drive. Last year, I purchased 2602 and 2604. There were two single-family homes on one lot. It's the end of the road. The adjoining property is Gateway School District. Since then, I demolished one of the homes, and I want to replace that home, which was a two-story brick home, with this proposed pole building. The existing two-story home was at least the 23 feet, if not higher. And it was right on the property line between 2606 and 2602. And I had put up a wooden fence
Hey, Dean.
years ago.
Dean.
Yes, sir.
Do you have this survey with you?
I do.
Can you set that on there's a little X on the center.
In the middle,
If you lay that there, a camera above you can pick that up.
I actually have the existing one of what was there and the new one, so I don't know.
You can use both.
Will they both fit on there or no?
Take a look at the screen.
maybe one at a time.
If you,
So the one on the right is what was there.
Point to the right.
That's this one.
That's the old one.
Right, so I have both of my properties on the same, I had the same company do, so they put both properties on the same survey. This was the existing two-story brick home. There was a little shed here. This is another two-story brick home that is still there. I had a wooden fence here. I moved it over to this side. I demolished this home, this shed, and I'm asking to put a pole building way over here in the corner. But a building that size, I need a little more height than 15 feet to have a 412 pitch on the roof. And I'm also asking for the side setback to be within the 10 feet because of the shape of this property. I was trying to push it over as far as I could to keep it just out of the way. But it is the very last property. I own the property next to it before we get to other people. There's only 6 residential houses on that street. So it's really all I have. I mean, here's the proposed with the other house and the shed gone. That's where I plan to put the new building.
Is that all you have, present?
Yes.
Do we have both exhibits on file? We only had
I
that.
think we do.
Okay.
I have to.
Oh, any complaints?
I did receive one phone call
I got you.
from a concerned neighbor. I don't know that he was gonna, he is here. Okay, he'll be able to elaborate.
Okay.
Okay, the property that you're going to win within the 10 feet, that's your property, right?
No, that's actually Gateway.
Well, no, the 10-foot, there's a 10-foot required side yard, and that's the area you're talking about, the
Yeah.
10-foot strip. That is your property.
Or you're going to go inside the 10-foot side yard? That is
That's
your,
what you're asking for,
That's
is a
the
side
variance
yard
request.
variance to encroach into that 10-foot.
Right, but that's
What's
on the
the-
Gateway School District side.
You're not crossing the property line.
No, I thought you meant was it the property, the 2606. I apologize, okay.
okay.
So I understand, we got a side yard variance and a height variance
Correct.
request. Those are
Right.
the two things.
We're not
Yes.
crossing any property lines.
Okay.
And to the right of your proposed building, that's Gateway property. Nobody's going to
That's
put anything
correct.
there. It's,
Right.
okay.
What's the topography like over there? Is it hillside, that wooded area?
That's wooded area over to the, I don't know what field that is over there by the middle school. And then above us, you know, the football field's elevated.
Yeah, there's a big retaining wall there, but
Right.
this area over here, is
It's
that
wooded.
steep as well? I know it's wooded, is it
No, it's
steep?
pretty level to the right.
Okay,
You know, like if you're facing the football field to the right,
Yeah.
it's kind of level. But the grade from my 2606 to 2602 drops probably about 5 feet.
Is there a specific reason why you couldn't move the building over 10 feet so you wouldn't have to worry about the variance?
I was just trying to push it over as far as I could. I mean,
We're just looking at the drawing, it looks like you can move it back, you know, even 10 feet towards the left and you'd be okay.
Right.
I wasn't sure if there was a specific reason.
no, I was just trying to utilize as much of the yard space as I could.
By moving it over there, you get more yard space.
That's correct.
That's what you want to say.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Sorry.
So what was the purpose of this, for this building?
It's for personal use. I do own my own business, but I have a building that is in Wilkins Township, and
Okay.
that's what all my business is ran out of.
Is it construction?
I do office furniture interiors. So, I just accumulated boys' toys, so to speak. I have a trailer, UTV, a snowplow, garden tractor, you know, I have almost 3 acres here, so you accumulate all the attachments. I have a couple pickup trucks, personal, that I'd like to, you know, at least keep one of them inside. Looking at buying a RV that I'd like to keep inside in the winter.
Okay.
Just general stuff like
Right.
that.
Paul, there hasn't been any complaints or issues with Gateway with it being that close?
Not from Gateway, no.
Anything
We wanna
else?
Do these
I'm not sure.
one at a time? We want to do these
Well,
one at a time?
we got to see if there's any public that wants
Yeah,
to be heard.
that's what I wanted to find out.
Okay, thank you. You can sit down and,
Thank you.
Is that all you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just.
Shall I
be
leave these
seated.
here or
Take it with
can.
you.
Sure.
leave them?
You can get them when we're done.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come forward? Back? Sign in, please. Give your address and name to the secretary.
James Bosley, B-O-S-L-E-Y.
And your address.
2610 Fairview Drive, Monroeville.
Thank you.
All right, first of all,
Would you raise your right
correction.
hand, please? You swear the testimony you're about to give this board this evening shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, begin.
First of all, correction, it was a one-story house that he ripped down. He does own box trucks. I truly believe that his intent is to store his commercial fleet of vehicles in this building. Your normal box truck is about 13 feet tall. He needs that to get that box truck in that building. Fairview Drive is a 20-foot wide street. It cannot support his commercial business. So please consider not passing this variance.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Anybody have questions of this gentleman? Thank you. Anybody else? Steve, come on. You sign in, please. State your name and address to the secretary.
My name is Steve Perry, and I live at 2616 Fairview Drive.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? You swear that the testimony you're about to give this evening to this board shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Just like my neighbor Jim said, that's a residential street and residential neighborhood. I know there's only 6 houses there. I've lived at my house for over 40 years. I made a comment to Paul. I was the one that talked to him on the phone. Since the spring, he said he tore this house down. He's had more heavy equipment up and down that street, and it's already destroyed the street. Okay? Because it's just what he had dumpsters on big trailers. He said all kind of stuff. And the road's broken. Have you sent anybody over there, Paul, to look at that street?
Not yet.
Okay. I've noticed it just by walking up and down the street, that the asphalt is broken and caved in. There's no way that street, Jim says it's 20 feet wide, there's no way any type of business, I don't care if it's one truck, he has a couple pickup trucks, so do I, a couple people live up there with cars, I understand that, but it can't take that abuse with all those vehicles. I don't care what's in it or not in it. You can't even pass. 2 of those trucks aren't going to be able to pass. I watched a school bus, a small van school bus, and I forget what other vehicle was up there. They had to wait, go over to the yard to pass on that street. If you've never been on there, there is only 6 houses there. And if you don't know where it is, you probably go right by it. It's where the new Monroeville cleaners went in, probably 10 years or so, right there on the corner. But that cannot, and I came up here to the zoning board and the borough back then, that is very minimal traffic and stuff, and it's on the downside of my house. But sometimes there still is, depending on what time you leave your house or coming, because there's always people coming and going into that business. But I've learned to tolerate that to a point. But to have a business going up and down in front of my house with I don't know how many trucks, And that's what that building's gonna be. I don't know much about construction, but I think he needs that height variance to put taller garage doors in, to put his trucks in. I don't know anything about the 10-foot deal. You know, you got Gateway School property all around there, Bosey's live on one side, and I don't know what's across the street. I don't know if Verizon owns that, but I think they come around to where the school district is. But I just think he's gonna be storing stuff in there that relates to his business, and just as the people before, it's R2. R2.
Anything further?
That's it.
Any questions from the boardman?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming up. Well, no, number one, in my opinion, there's no way we can enforce.
I don't know if anybody else.
I did ask.
Oh, I'm
Anybody
sorry.
else? Is there anybody else that does want to come up? Come on.
I thought to my.
You sign in, please, and state your name and address to the secretary.
My name's Heather Bosley. I'm at 2610 Fairview Drive, which is right beside Marucci.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please?
Yeah.
You swear that the testimony you're about to give this board this evening shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
This building is ridiculously huge. I don't think just a tractor and UV or whatever the little things that he's talking about, he has already been in violation because he brings that box truck up with his business on all the time. I have several pictures of it. And if it's not that, it's one of his vans. They've, within the last couple months with all the work that he's doing up there at 2602 or 2604, he's having equipment, bulldozers delivered and trailered and unloaded practically in front of my house, between his house and our house, numerous times. And in front of our house also, the street is crumbling because we have not only him bringing the business home, but we have somebody else on the other side bringing the business home. Big trailers. So the curbs are crumbling and everything. I do believe that he's going to try to bring his fleet of trucks up there. I hope he doesn't. If he doesn't, then I say go for it. One thing, the height also on the building now from the backyard, our backyard, we're going to see that building. We don't even see Gateway, and Gateway's in our backyard. Like the field is in our backyard. So I just say no. We moved there because of the street. It's a no outlet. There's minimal traffic, but him alone, going out of 2606 in a day, can go up and down the road 8 times, just from 2606. That's all I have to say.
Okay, when you say he comes up there with his box truck and his business trucks and everything, does he park on his property?
Yes, he does. In his driveway at 2606. And if he's not there, then he's at 2604. There's a driveway that goes to 2604 and 2602. Just one driveway. He will also park there.
Okay, and that's his property.
days at a time.
Time out. And that's his property that he's parking on?
Yes.
Any further questions of this witness? Okay, thank you.
Jim, can I add something?
Sure, come on back up.
Just to answer your question, a couple years ago, the neighbor that's downside of the Bosleys and upside of me, the reason why they went and put no parking signs from one end of the street to the other. We never had that till this guy wants to park his equipment, his business equipment, big pickup trucks, trailers and stuff on the road. I can't see what he does because he's up around the bend from me. But I know that's why we didn't want it. They got an ordinance to put in no parking. People like myself who's been there 40 years can't even put my tires on that road without violating the ordinance. But they did it because the garbage trucks couldn't get around, the salt trucks couldn't get around, put stuff. Now where he parks his, I have no idea. But there's no parking signs on the road all the way from Northern Pike, all the way up past Bosley's house on the telephone poles, and then on the opposite side also.
I believe some of those trucks, Steve, or some of those signs were put up because the school bus was going up there every day to make pickups, and people.
Yeah, there's a school, they pick up his kid.
I understand that. I know that, but I'm saying there were people parking on the road at the time that occurred originally, and the school bus was having a problem.
Well, I know the salt trucks and the garbage trucks couldn't get around either.
Yeah.
That was a deal there too, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Did you have something else you want to say, ma'am? You want to come back up? Okay.
No.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Gentleman in the green shirt, do you want to say something? Come on up, please.
The box trucks will be parked in his driveway for up to 3-4 days at a time, and yes, they do have a company logo on them.
Well, that's permissible, sir.
Is it? Okay.
Certainly. It's on his own property. Any further questions? Paul, anything?
Nothing.
Bruce?
Nothing.
Okay.
And may I ask a question of Mr. Marucci?
Yes, sir.
Will you be using this facility to store your box trucks?
Absolutely not. I own a property at 501 Brown Avenue.
And that's where all that equipment?
That's where all that stuff's parked.
So the equipment movement was related to the demolition of the building and whatever you were doing with the property?
That's correct. I had demolition going on, which we had permits for. Paul can vouch for that. I just was doing cleanup, so yeah, I had dumpsters up there. And there's not a weight restriction on Fairview Drive that I noticed. So I do take my box truck home whenever I'm leaving at 5 in the morning so that I don't have to go to my shop whenever I'm getting on the turnpike. I do a lot of work in Erie, and based on other stuff they said, is there a restriction on how many times you can come and go from your house in my pickup truck? You know, I don't.
And you park on your property?
I'm always on my property. I'm never in the road. I turn around in my own driveway, and I'm parked on my property, and my property's at the end. So even if those trucks are up there, fire trucks could still get up the road. I'm not restricting anybody except for maybe my own property. From fire trucks, garbage trucks, salt trucks, anything.
Any further questions?
Is there a specific reason why you're building a 40 by 80 building? It couldn't be smaller than that to accommodate what you need to get done?
It could be, but it's, you know, even years ago I built a pool house. It started out as a little shed. And then I went to 30 foot by 13 feet. And then it's like, before you know it, you accumulate more stuff. So, you know, a friend of mine has a 40 by 64 building. Same thing that I'm looking to build. And I joked with him and said, well, I gotta make mine a little bit bigger because just to say it is. And he said, you know, I'd do 40 by 80. So, I mean, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna have the equipment there, I'm gonna have everything there. You know, why not just go for it? Because there's not a restriction on the size, it's the height. I mean, even if I went to a 64 foot, it's still gonna be 40 feet wide. I still need the height to get to the, you know. And this survey that's stamped states that that house was a 2-story that I demolished, so.
Okay, you can take your paperwork back.
Okay, thank you.
Nobody else have anything they wish to
I think
speak?
she raised her hand again, I think, or someone did back there.
What? Oh. Go ahead, sir.
A 40 by 80 building has the capacity to hold at least 30 cars.
Okay, so you're aware, sir, we can't, if we should pass this ordinance, or pass this variance and stuff, we can't enforce what he does, okay? If he does violate, you bring that back to us, and we can take, back to Paul, and we can take action on it then. Okay?
Yep.
As long as he's parking on his own property, he's not in violation of anything.
And just for reference, I was just looking at the ceiling tiles here. If my math is right, this room is about 40 by 50.
Mhm.
So 40 by 80 would be approximately 30 feet wider than this room.
Okay. Any further questions from the board?
So, a question for Bruce. Are we able to put a condition on the building itself to satisfy neighbors about the storage of commercial vehicles?
I don't think you're able to tell the applicant what he does inside the building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. On 2126A, dealing with the height, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and second, may I? Excuse me. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. 2126A is passed. On the second one, for Mr. Marucci again, 2127A, on the size of the building.
This is side yard setback.
Yeah, side yard setback, not this.
Oh, the side, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking right at it, too.
Side yard variance.
Side yard. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. That's it. Good luck to you, Mr. Marucci.
Secretary here in all this paper.
Okay, Paul, if you would, please.
Okay, the final item here tonight, there's several requests lumped into one. So we have it broken down, 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3. So I'll read them all together, and then we'll listen to the presentation. 2128A, Hutton, Monroeville, Old Avers Creek, PA, ST LLC. Applicant requests the following dimensional variances. A, which is 1 of 3, a dimensional variance from the 10-foot yard requirement under sections 2073, 2078, and table 201C of the Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443 as amended to permit a vehicle travel lane in the front yard of the property along Golden Mile Highway, as well as to permit a vehicle travel lane, a dumpster enclosure, and pay stations in the front yard of the property along Old Avers Creek Road. B, which is 2 of 3, a dimensional variance from the 15-foot minimum side yard requirement under sections 2073, 2078, and table 201C of the Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443 as amended to permit a dumpster enclosure and parking area within the side yard to the north of the subject property and a vehicle travel lane within the side yard to the south of the subject property. And finally, C, 3 of 3, a dimensional variance from the 40-foot building setback requirement under table 201C of the Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443 as amended to permit a dumpster enclosure and pay stations within the required building setback from Old Avers Creek Road. The property is located at 1761 Golden Mile Highway, tax parcel 1242 and 130 in the C2 Business Commercial Zoning District.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Obviously, you're with this. Would you state your name, please?
He's getting paid by the hour.
I don't have to swear you in then. Would you state
So
your
you
name?
don't have to swear him in.
Yes, good evening. My name is Matt Marshall. I am an attorney with Dillon, McCandless, King, Coulter, and Graham, and I am here this evening for Hutton, Monroeville, Old Avers, PA, ST, LLC, which is the applicant for the 3-dimensional variances before the zoning hearing board this evening. Thank you for hearing this variance application this evening. My client is the tentative developers and the holder of an agreement of sale to purchase property from Four Seasons LLC. With me this evening from Hutton we have Mark Zimmerman from Morris Knowles, and we also have Joe Euler, who is the Director of Real Estate at Hutton. And they will be available to, and you'll be hearing from them after me. My client is requesting, as Mr. Wielden said, approval of dimensional variances for the proposed development of a car wash at 1761 Golden Mile Highway in Monroeville. This is a conveyor-style car wash. It's called Mod Wash Car Wash. The property abuts both Golden Mile Highway, Route 286 in the front, and also in the rear, Old Abers Creek Road. Because of that, it's technically considered 2 front yards, and there's 2 side yards as well. The property is currently zoned C2 business commercial. A car wash is a vehicle services use, which is a conditional use in this district. Adjacent properties are also zoned C2 as well. Across the street, the properties are zoned, I believe, M1. The property is currently used as a RE/MAX office, real estate office. And Mr. Zimmerman will be showing you some more detailed maps. But essentially, the existing structure that you see here, and Mr. Zimmerman will get into this in more detail. Actually, we're building a much smaller structure itself. This also encroaches upon setbacks as well. It's just that now the building itself will not need any setbacks, but there will be ancillary structures outside of that, such as pay stations, such as the vehicle dumpster, which also existing now also encroaches upon the side yard. But we need those dimensional variances in order to build the car wash at issue. We think it's an overall improvement, as Mr. Zimmerman will speak about, to the overall nonconformity of the structures upon the lot. And we think that this request involves a reasonable adjustment to the zoning regulations in order to accommodate the car wash style use on this property. So at this point in time, I would like to call Mr. Mark Zimmerman to join me and give a presentation, and he would be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, would you sign in, please?
Yes, absolutely.
State your name for the secretary.
My name is Mark Zimmerman.
If you could just wait.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Existing building.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Mark Zimmerman?
That is correct. Address 443 Athena Drive, Delmont, Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
Okay, and you are not an attorney?
I am not an
You raise
attorney.
your right hand, please. You swear the evidence you're about to give this board this evening shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
As the plan that you see here, let's throw it up there. Okay. Gold Mile down on this side, Old Abers Creek along here. We did an overlay of this project to give you an idea of what is currently there as opposed to what will be there. As you can see here in this white rectangular side, this is the current building layout. Our rear of our building would be moved down in here. So right now, the current building is in violation of the building setback. We will actually be making that in compliance with the building setback.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
While you're showing that plan, can you orient people to the businesses to the left and right?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. This side is, I believe, a Meineke, if memory serves me correctly. And then,
CVS.
and on this side, this isn't an updated photo, this is an outdated one, but this is where the CVS is currently located. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. So the current layout is the patrons would come in through this driveway here, enter the site, and would be able to wrap around into the pay kiosks located in this area. There'll be a parking attendant here to help people facilitate through the pay kiosk, and then they would wrap around and get into the car wash in this side. To make this turn, we needed to extend the pavement out this way a little bit, so it allows for an easier, safer turning movement from the pay kiosk into the car wash. That also allows patrons who don't want the car wash to exit the site immediately. Once through the car wash, they'll exit and they can either leave back on the Golden Mile Highway, or they have the opportunity to get a free vacuum at one of the 8 vacuum parking spaces along the front of the building. This is also a driveway which is needed to facilitate safe movements and allow safe entrance and exit from the one-way parking for the vacuum stalls. Once out of the vacuum stalls, they can exit back on the Golden Mile Highway. On this side, you'll see parking as well. There will be 4 employee parking stalls, as well as a bug prep area, and this will be a self-service. You park there, and they'll have a brush with a cleaner on it that you can scrub the front of your car just to kind of get that ready to get all the bugs off, especially in the summertime. And this is also where the dumpster is located. As you can see here, there is parking currently in that area. We'll be actually making that slightly better as far as the extent of that parking area go. And I believe that is my presentation and everything I had to offer at this point.
Sure. One additional question, Mr. Zimmerman. The dumpster for CVS, is it also in that back hand same corner? It's in the back corner of their lot. It's not shown here.
That is correct. Yeah,
but it's also
it's
in
right
that similar
this,
area.
Yeah, right over in that area. That is correct.
That's a good question. When you're exiting the car wash, if you choose not to vacuum, you come out to Golden Mile, can you make a left or a right?
Currently, yes. That traffic study has been approved as having full turning movements out of that driveway.
And likewise, if you use the vacuum and you come out the other driveway,
full turning movements.
full turning there.
Well. Yes.
Is there access from Old Abers Creek Road as well, or?
Yes, you'd be able to come in Old Abers Creek, enter in through here to get into these pay kiosks.
You can leave that way too?
Leaving, you only be able to leave currently out of Golden Mile Highway, just due again to the constraints of the property.
Okay.
What's going to be the hours of operation?
8 to 8, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
7 days a week?
Yes. Yes.
So is there an island on the right side of the property where you're coming in, dividing?
Entrance, exits.
Yeah, you get the entrance and exit. Is that like a solid island?
Yes, that'd be a solid
okay.
island. And they do use a kind of a rolled curb, not that it's really prevalent here, but they use a rolled curb just so easier with tires and things like that.
Now, is there a mod wash around this area in Monroeville or Wilkins?
Yes, Wilkins Township, there is one.
Is that the one they just built in front of the old Sears?
Yes, yep.
So
yes,
it's going to be that
similar to that.
Same kind of concept?
Yes, yeah, same company will own it as well.
Okay.
I think they do your bug wash at the Penn Center one. I don't know, you have to go to a separate.
I don't know if that one has the bug prep on it or not.
They do something with their prepping.
Oh, do they? Oh, okay. That was an early one. It's a continuous model.
Just one question, looking at the blueprints when the exit, let's say you're coming from the vacuum cleaners. Somewhere over here I see a do not enter sign. Is there going to be a do not enter sign there so people don't try to come in that side off of Golden Mile?
Oh, yeah. There will be a do not enter sign on this side. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, where the exit side,
Yep.
exit
Yes.
only?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
there will be a do not enter sign.
One other question on the places it says vehicle repair. On the blueprints, it says parking spaces, vehicle repair, and even in the application, the narrative, it says vehicle services in quotes. Is that just from our
yes.
language?
That's
Our use table doesn't have car wash, it has vehicle services.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's why
I
we
didn't
use that
suspect
term.
you're doing oil changes or anything, but, okay.
No.
Let's see if I can-
And Paul, there hasn't been any on either side, the businesses, and no issues?
No comments in favor or opposition.
One thing we would just like to point out too is many of the businesses along this corridor have existing nonconformities in their side yards as well. So that's another one of the factors too in granting a dimensional variance. It's essentially, it's one of the characteristics of this neighborhood is that there is many nonconformities with the side yard. So it's not like we're creating something new. And also too, as we've indicated before, we're actually decreasing, we believe, the overall nonconformity of the lot.
It is a narrow property for a commercial district, and they do have 2 front yards, so they do have a hardship.
We do have Mr. Uller here if you have any operational questions about the actual operation of the car wash itself on the inside.
Why don't you spell his name for the court reporter?
Yeah.
Sure.
You don't have to start.
You don't have to
talking.
come up, you can just spell your
Spell
name.
your name.
Yeah, sure. Uhler, first name Joe. Correct, yep.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Is there anybody in the audience that have any questions?
Okay. Seeing nobody has any questions, let's do these one at a time. Or you want to do all, let's do them one at a time.
Yes, they have special numbers.
Yeah, each one has a number. Okay. Under section, let's see, okay, we'll start with the A, the dimensional variance from 10-foot front yard requirement.
21-28A.
2128A. I'll entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, 2128A passes. 2128B, a dimensional variance for the 15-foot minimum side yard requirement.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, B passes. 2128C, dimensional variance for the 40-foot building setback requirement.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second that.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
When do
you
you
very
have to
much.
have the place open?
I mean, we still have to go through planning commission and commissioners, but it wouldn't be till spring start anyways. I mean, we can't break ground in the winter's coming.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Hopefully 2022.
Good luck.
Correct.
Good
Thank
luck.
you, thank you.
Okay, having no other reports seen, no other applicants, I'll entertain one more motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded, motion to adjourn. This meeting is adjourned. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.